Coalition Council of the Republic is a 4 to 20 player game for ages 13 and up with an average gameplay length of 60 minutes, published by Spoonbill Games. The basic overview for Coalition Council of the Republic has players taking on roles in one of 4 or 5 parties. You have the clergy, nobles, merchants, and rebels. And with player counts not divisible by 4, the remaining players will play as independents. Depending upon the number of players, there will be a number of councils, and each player will sit at a council with a minimum of 3 players per council. You will go through 3 phases and an end of round. You will have the negotiation phase, where you can discuss plans and trade influence with any and all players. The council phase, that has players bidding with influence to make edicts happen and use player abilities if desired and able. The Edict Phase, where the winning influence type for each council will be added to the law board, and all councils will then update edicts and resolve. Finally, at the end of the round, you will have players who have made the highest bid in each council move to the next council and begin again. Play until 2 or more greater edict thresholds are met, and move on to final scoring, and the party with the most points wins. Disclaimer: meeples used here are for visual aid purposes and are not a part of the Coalition game. To set up the game, first determine the number of players. Based on the number of players, you will form councils with council plaques numbered 1 through 4. A 4 to 6 player game will have 1 council. A 7 to 10 player game will have 2 councils. 11 to 15 players will have 3. And 16 to 20 player games will need 4 councils. Make sure each council has an area they can assemble. Then give each council a pair of lesser edicts, one with order and freedom, and the other with wealth and justice. Also give a council a pair of greater edicts with the same color edicts as the lesser ones. Place the lesser edicts under the council board with justice and freedom face up under their matching colors. Make sure each council has a stack of influence cards to draw when necessary. These influence cards are the blue order cards, yellow wealth cards, red freedom cards, and the green justice cards. Also place a player reference card at each table. Now for every 4 players, give one a party plaque so that there are the same number of players in each party: the clergy, the nobles, the merchants, and the rebels. If there are any additional players not divisible by 4, they will take an independent plaque. Along with their plaques, each player will receive 1 sigil card that matches their party's faction and an envelope. They should also draw 4 influence cards based on their faction. Clergies will draw 2 justice and 2 order. Nobles will collect 2 order and 2 wealth. Merchants will collect 2 wealth and 2 freedom. And the rebels will collect 2 freedom and 2 justice. If any independent players, they will collect 1 influence of each color. Players will then choose one of the 4 role cards for their faction. For the first game, it is recommended for clergy players to choose either friar or bishop, the noble players to choose duke or knight, the merchant players investor or guildmaster, and for the rebels, revolutionary or iconoclast. And the independents can choose any of the independent roles. These roles should be hidden from the other players. Each player should have fun naming themselves and write it in with the dry erase marker on their placard. Separate into councils with at least 3 players at each and place the placards in order, starting with clergy at the top, followed by nobles, then merchants, then rebels, and finally independents if any. Now place the Constitution board for all players to see, and not included in the game, use a phone or a timer so you may be able to keep negotiation times under control. With that, you are ready to begin. The game plays over 3 phases: negotiation, council, and edict. Starting with the negotiation phase, we will put 5 minutes on the clock and begin to negotiate and strategize with other players, no matter their council or party. You can give and trade influence card with other players. You can make deals with players, but no one is obligated to hold up their end of the deal unless a sigil card is given to make sure that deal happens. Sigil cards are worth no points to the player that originally owned the card. However, at the end of the game, each player/party will earn 5 points for each sigil that is not from the party of their faction. Once the timer goes off, the negotiation phase ends and players will return to their councils. Once everyone is settled, the council phase will begin. Start by preparing bids. Each player will silently place any number of influence cards or 0 influence cards into their envelope. Then, once all players have bid, they will reveal their bids in front of them by opening their envelopes and displaying what they put inside. Now, if any player has an ability on their roll card and they wish to activate it, they will then reveal their roll at this time and pay the cost of the ability, if any, and then use it. Now, determine the player who bid the most influence. This player will have to move councils, and if tied for the most, the council chair, which is the player whose placard is at the top, will decide which player wins the tie for the highest bidder. Then, based on all bids placed at each council, we will add up the influence cards, and the highest total will determine which virtue is the council's article. And if tied, the council chair will decide on who wins the tie. Now we will move on to the Edict Phase. During this phase, council chairs will assemble by the Constitution Board. Using a dry erase marker, each council will declare which virtue their council received the highest bidding for, and will mark that virtue off on the Constitution by filling in the next available space from the center of the board going outwards for that virtue. Once all councils have done the same, you will determine which edicts to invoke. We will look and compare the virtues on the scoreboard, and for the 2 virtues with the most articles filled in, these 2 will be the edicts that will be displayed at each council. However, if the articles opposite from another are tied, the edict will not stay the same this round, but will flip to its opposite side. And if at any time the amount of articles is greater than the number of councils, you will swap out the lesser edicts for the larger, greater edicts. Finally, the council chairs will return to their councils and resolve the edicts that are currently laws and on their council boards. For example, with a Constitution scoreboard that looks like this, then these 2 edicts will be in play, and we will follow what is written for this round, which usually just gives players influence cards to be used for future rounds. Then we will move on to the end of round, where we will discard all influence cards used to bid this round. The highest bidder this round will move to the next council in numerical order, with the player at the highest number council moving to the first council. When arriving at the new council, you will place your placard at the bottom of the group, and all other players will shift up to fill in any empty locations. Then check for end of game. If 2 or more greater edict thresholds are met, and those thresholds are the number of articles filled in equal to the number of councils plus 1, so in this 2 council example, once at least 2 of these 4 have 3 articles filled in, if this is not the end of the game, you will go through the phases once more. 5-minute negotiation phase to negotiate with anyone and everyone where you can trade influence and sigils. Then assemble with your councils for the council phase. Prepare your bids in your envelopes. Reveal those bids. Use abilities by revealing your roll if desired. Then determine the highest bidder and the article the council has the most votes. Move to the edict phase where the council chairs will assemble by the scoreboard. Mark in the articles for each council. The 2 articles with the most votes will determine the edicts. If articles opposite of each other are tied, no matter which edict is face up, the 2 will flip. And if the winning side is already face up, do not change unless it's changing to a greater edict. Then resolve the edicts. Discard influence cards used this bidding round, and the highest bidder will move councils, and check for endgame. Now when the game has ended, we will move on to scoring. Each article is worth 10 points for the party with that virtue. For example, if order has 3 articles filled in, that will be 30 points for both the clergy party and the noble party. Then each party will score 5 points for each sigil their party members have collected that are not of the same party. So all noble players that have a sigil card that is not a noble sigil will receive 5 points for each card. And finally, add up the influence cards still in the player's possessions and add that to their party's total. Then for each party, they will have score conditions. The clergy will score 3 points for each player in their council that has plus or minus 1 influence card total compared to the clergy player. Nobles will receive 7 points if they are at the top of their council. Merchants will receive 1 point for every order and justice influence cards in their hand. And rebels will earn 7 points if a noble is not their council chair. Add all points together, and the party with the most points wins. In addition to this, independents have individual win conditions and can win alongside any party if those conditions are met. A bard wins if they have more influence than every other player at their council. The bureaucrat wins if they are the council chair at the end of the game. The centralist wins if the difference between the virtue with the most articles and the virtue with the least articles is only 1 different. And jester wins if the total articles of freedom and order added together and the wealth and justice articles added together have a difference of 2 or more. And that is how you play and score coalition councils of the Republic. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified about new videos. If you're bored now, click this for more games.